Thank you so much, Dr. Pratik Tambe, the convener of AMOG's Suraksha 2.0 program. I would like to thank Dr. Nandita Palchetkar, the president, and the secretary, Dr. Arun Nayak, to have this wonderful program, and of course, Lupin, who has been kind enough to provide the platform. I would like to thank also my job is made easier by the previous speakers, and Dr. Anaita Chauhan has nicely put up all the points regarding how to manage patients in COVID time. So we are dealing with Sion Hospital right now in the midst of the second wave of pandemic. Last year, it was much lesser as compared to this year, but we had more cases of preeclampsia, hypertensive disorders, and associated issues with COVID-19. Life was very good before it hit us like a thunderbolt out of blue, and there we were stranded in the midst of pandemic. And basically, we started creating ourselves, our own lives, and somehow we have scraped through how best we can give the patients our knowledge and expertise so that they get through these problems of COVID. So, to briefly start, we all know it started in Wuhan in 2019 December, and gradually it spread all over the world. And WHO then made a statement around February mid that this is going to be a pandemic for a long time. And that's how we stand today in the month of June in Mumbai rains. I bring greetings from you from this part of the world. So when we talk about preeclampsia, I want to tell you that it affects COVID about 5 to 10% of these cases which we deal and land up with problems and complications. We all know what are the complications. A patient who is preeclamptic has a high blood pressure, urine albumin is 2 or 3 plus, she has proteinuria which starts after 20 weeks period of gestation, and you have a typical IUGR which is symmetrical, which sets in. She can land up with preterm labor, she can land up with accidental hemorrhage. And then on this, if you have COVID infection, you had it. The patient is going to have a galatine, and we need to be very cautious. So let me go through one by one. COVID affecting the placenta, the pathophysiology of COVID, how it affects in preeclamptic cases, and what situations we came across at the Sion Hospital. We cater to the largest slum area of India, that is Dharavi, or rather I can say Asia. About 12 to 14,000 patients deliver at my doorstep, and we are those privileged ones which we give them the best of the treatment, as we are the only tertiary center situated in between the Western Express Highway and the Eastern Express Highway, plus 22 maternity homes which also refer us cases. 50% of cases referred to Sion Hospital are those which are transferred and high risk cases. Well, talking about COVID and placenta, basically the effect is seen because of one enzyme, and that is ACE2 enzyme, and that plays a havoc as it acts directly COVID at the receptors, and it damages it. It's basically expressed in excess amount through the human placenta. Not only human placenta, but all the cells, including the endothelium and the smooth muscle of villi in normal pregnancy. So it's been found that because of the COVID infection, it alters the expression of ACE2 and it develops a pre-eclamptic state. So you have a patient who is pre-eclamptic plus COVID infection, which also develops pre-eclamptic state. So you can imagine what is the situation. We all are aware that there will be a high incidence of henceforth symmetrical IUGR, low birth weight, raised incidence of preterm labor, and all this will all depend upon further viral load. Now there are various enzymes and factors where immunological and lab markers play a very important role. These are as interleukin, IL-6, IL-7, tumor necrosis factor, serum ferritin, and thrombocytopenia, apart from CRP, D-dimer, and others which we commonly are doing it. But in pre-eclamptics, you will find that these parameters are increased at a much higher level. You see this wonderful chart in front of you. You can go through it from the left towards the right hand side, where you have COVID infections, which could be asymptomatic, mild, moderate, severe, and critical on one side. And that is how the viral phase will go from left to right. However, the host immune response will be much more higher as it starts from the left to right. And on the lower aspect of this slide, you will find the parameters of lab investigations, where basically you will have lymphopenia, you will have normal blood gas, but as the symptoms are increasing more and more, all these parameters will be much higher, especially the D-dimer, the ferritin levels, the abnormal blood gases where hypoxia will set in, the CRP will be higher, there will be thrombocytopenia, and all this will be having elevated inflammatory markers, and progressively you will land up a patient with cytokine storm. So this is what we as an obstetrician need to intervene as early as possible. Tell your antenatal patients, those who are at least who are normal, anemic or PIH, to be very careful. Anytime if they get these symptoms, they need to call us back and we need to go ahead with treating them appropriately. So when there is a shared pathophysiology along with COVID and preeclampsia, the basic pathology, what happens is there is endothelial damage. The spiral arterioles, the vessels, the venules, these are gradually getting affected, and there is also disruption of placentation. So you can imagine there are higher chances of accidental hemorrhage and thrombocytopenia as the clotting factors are utilized. And then when the patient goes in full-blown DIC, the body mechanism starts to have oliguria, where you try to reduce and improve the plasma volume. But still, if it is not getting controlled, gradually the patient goes in multiple organ failure, the kidney fails first, patient goes in DIC, lungs are already fired because of pneumonia, which gradually is a progressive pneumonia, and you can imagine the heart taking the load where it lands up with myocarditis. So you have a patient with severe COVID infections, and you have a patient who mimics those of preeclampsia in the absence of defective placentation. Most of the time, we would like that they resolve and the symptoms come down, and you might just have a normal delivery or probably a cesarean section because of indication obstetric, a complementary obstetric indication, maybe a previous two LSES. But that is not an indication for doing a section for COVID. You should, as far as possible, try to deliver her vaginally. So when you have a widespread inflammation, I'm trying to show you the worst scenario where there is endothelial damage and all these problems come into play. Have a hyperinflammation syndrome, multi-organ failure, and the worst thing is cytokine storm leads to all these things. If you ask me what is the mechanism of cytokine storm, this clearly tells us that there is an activation of inflammatory pathways. It's totally chaotic situation. The virus has come and left your body, but it has caused a havoc in the whole hormonal system, the pathways, the inflammatory pathways. You have total imbalance of arachidonic acid, prostaglandins on one side and thromboxane A2 on another side. Plus there is the release of cytokines. So you can imagine what a situation can come across. Luckily, in the second pandemic wave, we had less cases of patients with preeclampsia anemia. I don't know the reason why, though the second wave it was supposed to be more brutal than the first wave, but somehow probably it has spared pregnant women. So when we are talking now about SARS-CoV-2, as I said before, it affects the endothelial cells and there is release of microthrombi and it affects the angiogenesis. This picture on the right explains us very nicely how it affects, and that, as I said before, leads to multi-organ failure and increased risk of cardiogenic pulmonary edema, venous thromboembolism. I want to stress on these points because that's what we are here for, imparting knowledge. So, having known all the pathophysiology situations, we went ahead and did a study on COVID patients who had hypertensive disorders. Some of them concomitantly had anemia also. We did this study from last year, March till September. However, we got the opportunity to publish this year. So my data is of last year and we are working for the data this year when we have a better understanding by the end of the year. So this was from 1st April to 30th September. They were tested positive for nasopharyngeal swabs using RT-PCR, and we had to find out the maternal and fetal outcome of pregnant women with affected COVID infections in hypertensive disorders. We had various variables which were taken into consideration, and if you see the age-wise distribution, it was more in the women who are less than 25 years. It was more commonly seen with hypertensive disorders with COVID-19 infection, 51.78% in less than 37 week gestation. And if you see, the rate of cesarean section was higher. Well, it is not that it was because of COVID, but it was because of hypertensive disorders. Unfortunately, 4 mothers died, and there was a little higher incidence of IUGR and preterm labor, approximating to 13.33% and 26.66. 40% of these babies had a birth weight of less than 2.5 kg. And you can also imagine the amount of stillbirths. But when we compare that with non-COVID patients, there was not much of a difference when we did this study last year. And obviously, the women were monitored, they were looked after, most of them were transferred, and the babies had to be in neonatal intensive care for a little longer time. So this is what we concluded, that it did not appear that pregnant women were at higher risk of severe infection. But when I compared the data and other studies came out as we progressed, we found that in February this year was an article which was in Medscape they linked that there is a significantly increased risk of gestational hypertension and preeclampsia, and it was twofold. Thus, close monitoring of such patients are required. And another study also was found in the literature by Joshua Rosenblum et al., and it got published in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, where they wanted to find the possible connection of COVID-19 and hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, and they tried to understand the pathophysiology, which I have explained you. More than twice as many patients with COVID had hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. But the severity of hypertensive disorders was same between COVID and COVID negative group. This paper supported our paper. One more paper I would like to read here of British Journal of Obstetric Gynaec by M. Mendoza et al. And here you can find that there is a preeclampsia-like syndrome which is present in some pregnancies with severe COVID-19, and you need to have a proper understanding. This was for singleton pregnancies only, and it was more than 20 weeks were considered. One more statement is by WHO, which suggested now in this year presently confirmed that COVID-19 has an increased risk of high blood pressure, stillbirth, preterm birth. The newborns are more likely to need intensive care, and you have pregnant women with COVID-19 symptoms. They have a higher risk of complications. So now we can surely state this statement that yes, we have to be much more vigilant. We need to be much more careful in hypertensive disorders in pregnancy and when we are dealing with COVID, because it is going to be a double whammy. Vaccination and preeclampsia, I think 3 weeks to 4 weeks back, FOXI has issued a statement. Even ICMR has issued a statement. FOXI has considered that vaccination should be given in pregnancy, and ICMR and the government of India, the Ministry of Health, they have recommended that it can be given in patients who are lactating. So those patients who have already had preeclampsia and they have now gone past through 6 weeks, surely they can be vaccinated, and there is no iota of doubt in this situation. So well, I would like to conclude here with a simple SMS message. You have to continue this safe distance, sanitization, wear a mask, see that you are in a proper attire. When you are seeing patients who are suspected COVID and have hypertensive disorders, and they need to be monitored much more better. We need to have biomarkers, but they are not available. What we are doing right now in India is quite efficiently done, like D-dimer, platelet count, CBC, CRP levels, a repeat ultrasound to be done every 3 to 4 weekly. That's how we are doing an obstetric management. And once the COVID infection has settled, she can be easily available to deliver vaginally unless there is a rise of blood pressure, there is fetal distress, there is concomitant obstetric indication for a cesarean section, then only you can go ahead to perform and deliver this vaginally as far as possible patients. And of course, we have the neonatal management, which will be looked after by our neonatologist. We need more data further to assess. With this, I would like to conclude my talk and thank you all for a patient hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Niranjan Chauhan, for that fantastic talk with your own personal experience over the past 1 year of handling COVID patients and the unique association between COVID and preeclampsia. There are a couple of questions, sir. If you permit, can we take them now?
Yeah.
There is one question from Dr. Vasantha from Vizag, and she's asking what is the role of anticoagulants and the dose in COVID patients?
Well, these patients are quite young, and as such, we are aware that anticoagulants can be given to the patients, but this has to be in joint consultation with a medical physician. We have to have a multidisciplinary approach. You can imagine the chaos which has occurred in the nation where patients have taken left, right, center aspirin, which is a blood thinner. As a result, the patient can go in further DIC. They have taken steroids. They have landed up with mucormycosis. So it has to be used judiciously. And I think all the guidelines do support that you can surely give aspirin, which is about 75 to 150 milligram in such patients of preeclampsia.
Thank you, sir. And there is just one more question. This is from Dr. Sanju Haldar from Kolkata. And sir is asking, COVID in which particular trimester of pregnancy increases the chance of PIH?
As you are aware, PIH is only after 20 weeks of pregnancy. That is why we call it PIH. Any increase in the blood pressure before 20 weeks is not called pregnancy induced hypertension. But if you are talking about hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, yes, it could be a patient with hypertension. And as the pregnancy advances, of course, the COVID infection will not see the affection whether which trimester to attack. It will just come. It is just a virus. It will be embedded in the body, enter the cells, and go away and disturb the whole pathway. So whether it is first trimester, second or third trimester, as far as my personal knowledge is concerned, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't choose any trimesters. It chooses a patient who is immunocompromised, especially in pregnancy, which is immunocompromised state. And of course, the second trimester seems to be a more lucrative phase where you have anemia which sets in. There is much more chances of immunosuppression at that time. That is most of the dangerous period where you have to be very careful. I feel so.
Thank you, sir. So we have one final comment, and that is from Dr. Ranade, Dr. Vidyadhar Ranade from Pune, who has said, excellent presentation, Dr. Niranjan Chauhan, sir, and he's congratulated you for your talk. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion, sir.
Thank you, Pratik, and I congratulate you. You're doing a wonderful job. Amox is doing really great. And I would like to thank all my esteemed speakers who are colleagues with me. Madam Asha Dalal, Dr. Surekha Taide, Madam, Dr. Anayata Chauhan, and of course my next speaker who is a well-known pediatrician, and last but not least, Lupin Pharmaceuticals to get us all on board today in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.